Elizabeth, CIE Tours, you're 90 years in existence, but you can never have envisaged the year you've just had.
So true, Owen. And first, thank you for having us here. It's been not only a crazy year, but it has also been a year of real learning about what our industry is capable of, and kind of what our governments are capable of, what we're capable of, and there's going to be a lot of newness and I think honed skills that are coming out of this once we get into recovery.
Yeah, and it's a crazy period at the moment. I mean, the dying days of one presidency, the commencement of a new presidency, but there is, I suppose, hope on the horizon in the form of a vaccine. And I suppose the hope we all have is that the vaccine rollout happens as promptly as possible so that there's an element of normality later on in 2021.
Yes, the reality of the vaccine is here. And it is starting to be felt by people in the United States, regardless of state. Clearly, we don't have a centralized system and everything is kind of done state by state. But there is no question that the positivity of the vaccine is starting to become the more prominent feeling that is counteracting what we do still have as a current reality, which is these spikes in COVID that are happening not only in the United States, but in Ireland, in the rest of Europe. Those two, they're almost like conflicting
Yeah,
emotions in the populace at the same time. But the reality is that the vaccine's going to win out, because the
yeah.
vaccine, even if there are delays, there will be a vaccine and it is coming. And I think the good news here in the United States specifically is that it's getting to the point now that all of us know somebody who has been vaccinated, because you know
Yeah.
healthcare workers, or you know an essential worker, or you know somebody in your family was high risk. And so the early administration of the vaccine is going to be the energy that is going to help get travel back on track.
Yeah, and there is quite a lot of pent up demand for a destination like Ireland, isn't there, in the States? I know you guys would have done a lot of research with your own kind of customer base, but also I know Tourism Ireland track this regularly. So there is that pent up demand. There is that desire to travel again, isn't there?
Absolutely. This is, I believe, going to be even more accelerated than we probably are hoping. That when there is a critical mass of travelers who have vaccine, or who believe that the vaccine is wide enough that it's safe for them to travel, Ireland is definitely being surveyed and mentioned as a very desirable destination. I think it's for two or three reasons. Number one, the clearly we all know that the American traveler, and Americans in general, do have a very special bond with Ireland. Second reason is that over here in the United States, when you see how Europe is faring, Ireland is actually standing out as having been quite responsible from the early stages. So let's just say that, assuming that continues, right? So that we don't break that reputation, which I believe we can keep that intact. Ireland is perceived as a relatively well-managed, responsible COVID managing country. And then the third is that the work that Tourism Ireland has been doing to, number one, keep research going, kind of keep the finger on the pulse, is definitely valuable. And it is
Yeah,
followed up with marketing investment. We need more of that marketing
yeah.
investment. There's no question that what we have is not going to be enough, but we are seeing that they have very well thought out and well managed plans ready to go when Americans are ready to travel. I also would like to say, at the destination level, Fáilte Ireland has also been doing a really responsible job of making sure that there's communication about resources, putting programs into place, and administering the general whatever the flow of events and resources
Yeah.
is. Between Tourism Ireland and Fáilte Ireland, Ireland as a destination has got a leg up on the rest of Europe as
Yeah,
far as being at the top of the American travelers list when travel resumes.
which is great. Do you have any idea? I mean, it's nearly an impossible question, but when will travel resume? Like, I know from talking to you previously that a lot of your 2020 bookings shifted to 2021, which I suppose was encouraging. But do you have any idea when people will be able to board planes in 2021 and come over to Ireland? Are you budgeting or estimating any particular time of the year?
Yes, I think we're pretty aligned with the rest of industry on what we are seeing from our travelers, and our bookings. everything is gearing towards second half of 2021, with possibly a little bit earlier, depending on maybe May, June,
Yeah.
depending on COVID, vaccination,
Yeah.
aviation recovery. So, but I think we'd be safe to say that second half of 2021, we do feel like that is a reasonable timeline for the American traveler and the Canadian traveler to see that there is a window where they can now begin to think about travel today, because they can probably travel in 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
On the other side, while the planning for that is coming from kind of where we're gathering all this information about what travelers are saying in the market, we do have 73% of the 2020 business rebooked into 2021. That business is, while it is heartening and it is a great indicator, it is 70% or more of that has moved into June and beyond of 2021. So I think even the travelers, and also with the guidance of travel agents, people kind of were being a little bit safe, on the safe side, and wanted to push it later into 2021. So that's number one. But the other signal is that we do see that CIE Tours, but industry-wide, most tour operators have absolutely stepped up to the plate with flexible policies that are allowing people, even those people who may have booked way back in September and October, when we thought every month the world has been different than the prior month, but people who may have booked for this spring, even if Ireland is not going to be open as a destination, flexible booking policies have been put in place. So CIE Tours has changed our policies and updated for, flexibility for people to change their travel plans up to 30 days ahead. And that is actually, I believe that that's something that has been a very good outcome of the entire industry. Most tour operators recognize that we all have to do that, because our industry will not recover if we, the people who are helping sell travel, if we're not letting people be flexible, then we're not being realistic. So
absolutely. On a personal level or on a human level, how do you cope with a year like 2020, insofar as CIE Tours, like lots of other international tour operators, must have had zero revenue effectively? And as you say, you're scrambling, trying to make sure that people transfer to 2021 rather than cancel entirely. There must be a big toll on kind of mentally on keeping the show going.
Yeah, I think it's a great observation. And the one example I would give of that is, internally, when our entire team had to stop in March, had to stop doing the jobs that they are so good at doing. We basically went from being a company and an industry in 2019 that sells people amazing experiences to one of the best destinations on the planet. We had to stop, and all of a sudden we had to become a booking management machine, and just every booking had to be touched and changed and moved. And that amount of stress and toll, I think, was absorbed so professionally and so creatively by all of our staff. But the human toll is, I think it's potentially very stressful for the industry. So we became an industry in 2020 that all of a sudden was just a huge reservation center in crisis mode. One thing that we say is 2021, we're a different company again, because this year, we're all about retention of business. We have got to make sure that Ireland, the destination, is open for business so that those bookings can be retained. We also have to make sure that we're delivering a safe, comfortable experience so people feel that they are traveling and that they have that flexibility to change.
Yeah. And has the US consumer or the US customer changed in the last 12 months? Like, has the profile of that customer changed? I mean, there's a lot of talk about them needing reassurance of a safe destination. And are we talking about smaller groups, more numbers of FITs, or will we still have the kind of the larger tour series? I know it's all speculation to a certain extent, and you won't know until the season unfolds. But what's your instinct at the moment?
Yeah, I know it's, I think we've all gone into this with, we've had to be flexible, creative, and constantly, the pivot word, pivoting to new things. What has washed out is that we've all bet at CIE Tours, on all of our product lines, we've bet that smaller, more intimate group sizes are going to be desirable.
Yeah.
So one of the changes that we've made, but I do believe, again, this reflects a lot of the industry thinking, is that the traveler hasn't changed. It is absolutely an external effect of COVID. When the external negative effect of COVID goes away, it's still the same traveler underneath, right? We may still wear masks, we may still do some of these things. But what we did is respond by taking, we're known for our coaches, and our coaches, they fill. We have, you get 40 plus people on a coach, and it's a great experience. I think it's the ideal, conviviality of a tour. But what we did is we took, in the past, we had a more like a higher markup product that was smaller groups on a coach and limited to 26. But that was really only about 10 or 15% of our product line in the past. We expanded that to 80+% for 2021, just to be prepared. But at the same time, with those rebookings and that business, we do kind of have a sense of what the traveler wanted to rebook to. We still have hundreds of coaches on specific departure dates that are already well over 26. So those people have actually said, I'm fine with it as soon as COVID is gone. So I do believe the coach tour is here to stay. I believe there will be a 1 or 2 year period where more people than usual will want a limit on the coaches, but I'm not convinced that that's going to be permanent. I think that people will want the value and that, again, that conviviality of the experience. So the traveler is the same. I think, one other comment I would say is, we collectively and at our company also considered, will the traveler who is 55 plus have reservations about traveling, or will they be slower to come back to travel? And I think there was a period in 2020 where there was a logic behind that. That does not appear to be playing out, because we are getting very strong desire. It's not an if I will travel, but it's when will I travel.
How is Ireland as a destination perceived in the US, Elizabeth?
Well, one indicator I can give you is, first of all, it's perceived very, very highly. It's at the top of the European destinations. But one indicator that's more quantitative than my own statement is that Ireland just won again for the 8th year in a row, the best destination in Europe in the highest of industry Readers' Choice Awards for trade press, or for travel press. So that's a high indicator that even throughout this pandemic, the destination of Ireland has retained its love affair with the American traveler.
We're an island nation, Ireland, so we're solely dependent, particularly from the States, on air access. And that's obviously crucial. If we can't get visitors here in a direct fashion, there's a problem. What's the transatlantic air services looking like from the States into Ireland this year? Or is it too early to say, simply because airlines are kind of reluctant to, if you like, commit to routes and frequencies?
Yeah, right now it's still too soon to say what it's going to be like in that second half of the year for tour business. But of course, I mean, let's recognize that's CIE Tours segment of the business. For all tourism, there's a lot of tourism we really want to happen before that, right? And that all of that involves air. So I think it's too soon to say exactly what it's going to look like as far as the amount of air access that we're going to have. But what I am 100% behind is, I think that what we need to commit to as an industry, as a destination, as an aviation, and aviation has been asking very clearly for this in all of their recommendations. We need to invest everything in making whatever air access we have, make it as safe and confident as possible with pre-travel testing schemes. I do believe that the aviation industry actually has had more service than I would have even imagined that they could have had up till now, given all these limitations, but they are hanging on by their fingernails. So as an island nation, we need to prioritize at the level of industry. Every partner, aviation, tour operators, we all need to be helping and pitching in to make sure that plane that feels as safe as possible, because that will be the recovery for us.
Absolutely. One of the questions you raised before, Elizabeth, was the marketing spend that Ireland has, the marketing power we have in the States. And one of the things that we're all aware of is that this COVID crisis will pass, particularly with the advent of the vaccine. And at that point, every destination worldwide will be looking for consumers and customers and travelers. We've got to do more, don't we, on the marketing front in a country like the States?
Absolutely. There has to be a very heavy and aggressive plan in the pipeline ready to deploy. And I'm happy to say that I believe that's exactly what Tourism Ireland is prepared to do. They've mapped out a very good path. Any heavy marketing investment up until now would have been wasted, right?
Yeah,
It would have fallen on deaf ears.
yeah,
So now that we're through the holidays, normally January 2nd, when we all come back, that's, the heavy season in the
yeah,
United
yeah.
States and a lot of the world for booking your year's vacations. That's not going to be what we have this year. So even if it's a recovery, it's not going to look like a normal January. But that we absolutely have got to have the shift from free and social media marketing and the pieces that are more internal and just are managed by our own budgets and resources. We've got to shift the industry over to investment
Yeah.
on the external plan. And I believe from the plans that I've seen, that is how Tourism Ireland is lined up now. But also they're staying flexible, because if something were to happen that they need to pull it up, they can pull it up. If there's something happens that it needs to be delayed, God forbid, we don't anticipate that, but we would flex again. So but there has to be more investment, because the social media supports everybody. The free marketing or the self-contained marketing supports everyone, but it will be a highly competitive market, and every part of the world will be clamoring for the North American traveler when this is opening up.
Well, fingers crossed the second half of 2021 becomes a little bit more normalized, and we begin to see American visitors to our Irish shores again, and hopefully CIE Tours. There's another 90 years yet in you, Elizabeth.
Yes, indeed. I'll check in with you in about 40 years and we'll see how we got through this.
Great. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Owen.